Okay guys, XTJX here again, and I'm at the North Metro Processing and Distribution Center at 1605 Boggs Road. This is where most of your mail and packages come from before they hit your local post office. At least in North Georgia, that is. Like, have you ever noticed, like, it'll say, like, on your, like, package updates, like, status is it arrived at North Metro P and Processing and Distribution Center? Well, this is the place I'm at now. This is also where they hold orientations for city carriers, RCAs, ARCs, you name it, and clerks. But I want to go into a little bit of detail, and the reason I got my camera pointed this way is because I want to see the LOVs in action. There's some down there. You can barely see though. All you're seeing is a view of cars, but I was in RCA for 4 years, from 2008 to 2012, and my thoughts on it, it was a pretty good job for the money. I mean, I knew my route very well, I knew my customers very well, and it was just a lot of fun, except you had to keep up with your own car, because my route that I was mainly on, you had to have your personal owned vehicle, or POV as they call it. And as far as that went, taking care of the car, I went through 3 transmissions and had to put brakes on the car every 3 months and then tires every 6 months. It was just a big mess. And sometimes I wondered, is this 1 day a week even worth it, putting my car through this? And as you can see, they're doing LOV driver's training over there, so I'm trying to film it instead of the cars in front of me. But I want to give you a few tips about the Postal Service and joining the Postal Service. As an RCA, you have to come down here for orientation. It's usually Monday through Wednesday. Usually you come down here for 3 days. And then you'll also attend an academy somewhere different than here for 3 days. It's called the RCA Academy. And this is just for the people who want to become RCAs into the Postal Service. And then you have to take a driver's test. I'm not sure if they're going to take the driver's test before Academy here as an RCA. I'm not sure how that works, because I came back here about a month or so ago and applied for the ARC position. Now, ARCs are very different than RCAs. ARCs only deliver Amazon packages on Sundays. And that's pretty much the only days they work, except for around the holidays. Then they have to work every day. But that's pretty much what an ARC does, is deliver Amazon packages. They have nothing to do with the mail or the letters or anything like that. Now, RCAs are a different story. They're pretty much subs for the regular carriers. Like, if a regular carrier calls out, like at 6 o'clock in the morning, it's your obligation to be there. Whether you don't have a babysitter, you do have a babysitter. And that is one thing I did not like about the Postal Service, because they would always sometimes call me and I would say, well, I can't get a babysitter right this minute for my son. I mean, I didn't know what else they expected me to do, but I always worked it out. But then when I was in RCA for going on my 4th year mark, I think it was July 5th, 2012, my supervisor called me that morning and she said, we need you to deliver a package to another town. And I said, I can't right now because I've got my son with me. Let me try to get a babysitter and work this out. They didn't have time for that. They needed me to deliver that package now. And I said, well, I can't. It's just impossible, because I had no one to watch him. And she said, well, you can just turn in your badge right now. She was having a bad day, I could tell over the phone, and she just wanted someone to take it out on, and I guess that person was me. And so I went in and turned in my badge, and I explained to her the whole situation. I said, sometimes it's hard for me to find a babysitter. Sometimes his mom can watch him, sometimes she can't because she's in school. And she realized what she had done, I think, because tears was coming down her eyes, and she offered me a second chance. But I didn't take it, and that was stupid of me. I mean, I didn't like the way she treated me, but hey, you know, I should have just took the opportunity anyway and stayed on, because my carrier, my regular carrier, was an OIC at the time at another office. That's an officer in charge at another office, like she's the fill-in postmaster or the fill-in supervisor until they can find a replacement. And she was an OIC half the time, so I had the route pretty much every day. I should have stuck with it, yes, because I've been making pretty good money, because most of these subs, they only get 1 or 2 days a week, because the regular carrier hardly ever takes off. And then some get 2 or 3 days a week or more, because the mail carrier will take off. And that's what you are as an RCA. You're the carrier's relief. Like if they're sick or something at 6 o'clock in the morning, oh, they got to take their child to the doctor, they call you, they rely on you to get that mail out that day. And yes, USPS delivers rain, snow, or shine. Whether it's 12 inches of snow out there, you still got to attempt to get the mail or wherever you can get it. I mean, don't risk your life. Your safety's first. But try to get as many mailboxes as you can. And the post office is big on safety. They are very big on safety. And that's one thing you got to worry about. That's one thing I didn't do whenever I was doing my test. I was overconfident in myself and I was like, oh, I can do this because I did it for 4 years. But heck, I wasn't even looking in the mirror half the time, which they're very big on. They're very big on safety. And I did pretty good parallel parking and all that, but backing in, they said I hit a cone. But someone was with me that day and they said they never seen me hit a cone, so I don't know the whole story behind it. But anyways, that's not really what I want to talk about in this video. As an RCA, it is a part-time job. It's no full-time job. You only get a Saturday. That's your only guaranteed day is Saturday. And some during the week if the postal carrier or the regular carrier goes on vacation or leave or whatever. But you do not get health insurance being an RCA. You don't get any kind of benefits. And you have to wait about 10 years on the seniority list to even become full-time. Like if you're at the very bottom, let's say it'd take you about 10 years. And I was at the very bottom back in 2008. And when I went in there in the post office again in this year, 2019, I seen that all the subs that was there when I was there was full-time now. And I would have been the next up for full-time. So yeah, I should have kept the job, but I didn't. But is it worth it? Some people think yes, some people yet think no. Like, they don't like the part being called in, like, short notice. Some people like a set schedule. They like to know when they're working and when they're not working and have things planned out. Well, that's not how the post office works. The post office can be very selfish at times. They want you when they need you. And when they want you, they need you. So, yeah, that's a few things I wanted to go over. And as I said, an RCA delivers mail, packages, and flats, while ARCs just work on Sundays and delivers Amazon packages. So that's the difference between ARC and an RCA. The RCA is pretty much the main carrier's sub, like if they're out. But is it worth it? Let's just say if you have an LLV, yeah, I'd say an LLV route, yeah, I think it's worth it because you don't get paid mileage, but you still get paid for the evaluated time of the route. Like, let's say the route is estimated or evaluated at 8 hours. Even if you complete the route in 6 hours, you still get paid for 8 hours. But if you are out there about 9 or 10 hours, and you're just going to only get paid the 8 hours. So if you finish early and it's a light mail day, it's pretty cool because you can get in and out of there and still get paid for your evaluated time on the route. But casing is what confuses a lot of people. Mail casing is it can be very challenging at times, especially if you're not really a memorizing person. It can be a little bit challenging. Like casing the mail pretty much goes in the route of the route. You have to case flats. DPS comes in separate. It's already in the route of in the order of the route. You can case it along with your flats and just have them all one at a time and just stick them in the box instead of working out of 2 trays. A tray of flats and a tray of DPS. And for those of you who are wondering what DPS is, it's destination or distant point sequence. That means it's in order of the route when it comes in, and you don't necessarily have to case it. That's just an option. Me, I used to case my mail because I liked all my mail all in one, and so that way I could just put it in the box and not flip-flopping through the DPS, trying to find what goes and what doesn't. I just sorted out through the post office and forwarded what needed to be forwarded and knew what didn't go to what address. And on the route, that can confuse you a little bit once you get out there. Like, sometimes you don't know what mail goes in certain people's box. But at the post office, you kind of know because you have these stickers. Like at my post office, or used to be post office, the blue stickers used to mean that person was forwarding mail out. Like a person moved out or something and they're forwarding their mail to somewhere else. And a red dot mean a dead box, which no mail goes in a dead box, because if no one lives there, then what's the point putting mail in it? But anyways, let me get back to this. If you're using your POV, which is your personal owned vehicle, that's what they call this, on a route, then it's a little bit harder because you got to keep up with your mileage, you got to keep up with the car, you got to get brakes on the car. So that's why I'm saying an LLV route is probably your best choice. But using your POV, your personal owned vehicle, you get paid mileage, and mileage is about 78 cents a mile now. So you're in pretty good shape if you have a route with your personal owned vehicle. But there's pros and cons to everything, right? The con of using your own vehicle is you get brakes, transmissions, because you stop and go, stop and go, stop and go. Then you're having to replace your transmission maybe about every year or so. Then you have tires that need to be replaced every 6 months. And the brakes are very crucial. You have to replace them about every 3 months. Yeah, I know, it's pretty dramatic, but it's worth it if you really want the miles. Miles a day, like if you have a 70-mile route or something like that, it could go up to $80 or $90 a day just in mileage extra on your paycheck. But if you're using one of their privately owned vehicles, the LLVs, they're mail trucks that are about 20 years old that need an update. They have the engines of an S10, Chevy S10. So, and they're very hot in the summer. That's another con. If you had to be out there in one of them LLVs, bring you some water. Bring you a cooler. Bring you something to eat. I mean, you get really dehydrated out there, and those LLVs do not have air conditioning. All you have to rely on in that LLV is a fan, and the fan don't really work that well. But they say they're going to change the model of the LLVs. They are going to upgrade them because they haven't been upgraded since the 80s or 90s. Because like I said, they have an engine of a Chevy S10. But that's pretty much what you're going to be getting into when you first go into the post office. In RCA, you have to come down here for 3 days, and you keep up with your mileage. You get paid mileage and the hours. And then when you go to RCA Academy, you also get paid for the hours and the mileage you did to drive down there. And you'll also get paid to be coming back to do the driver's test. Usually how it works is, how my ARC training worked was, I came down here on a Friday, did orientation, because it only took 1 day for us ARCs, and it takes 3 days for an RCA because they have a lot more responsibility. And came down here that Friday and just did the 1 day of orientation. And then that Sunday, I had a shadow day. I shadowed somebody delivered Amazon packages, which was pretty easy. And the scanners that the USPS has now has global positioning system, GPS. It's got GPS on it. So, you know, turn by turn where you're supposed to go to deliver the Amazon package. And then I had the shadow day, so that's how I know all this, because I had the shadow day that Sunday. And then that Monday, I had ARC Academy in Winder, and it was only for 1 day, as versus RCAs have to go for 3 days. So you're pretty much making more money, like as far as the training goes, as an RCA, because you got to go through a lot more training, because it could end up being $1,000 paycheck, your first paycheck, you know. But anyways, is it worth it? That's everyone's big question. If you want a part-time job that pays really good, I would suggest this, because you can make $200 a day. Well, see, I work in retail, and these retail people, they usually make about maybe $300 or $400 a week, and they're at the post office. With you just driving an LLV, you've made about $200. Even at the evaluated route of 8, you still made about $200. And that's pretty cool, because that's pretty much half of what you're bringing home from retail, working every week or every 2 weeks. So I find that pretty cool. But anyway, what else was I going to mention about the post office? And it's a very high paying job. It's probably about the best part-time job you can have. Just remember, if you're driving your own personal vehicle, POV, make sure you keep it up. Have good insurance on it. Have good tires. Have good brakes. Have a good transmission to start out with. And you should be pretty good to go for at least a year or 2. But brakes and transmissions wear out a car, because you're stopping and going out there so much that the transmissions do get worn out. But in a LLV, see, here's another thing. If you break down or anything like that, it's not your problem. It's a mechanic from USPS has to come out and get it and take it back to the mechanic shop. But if you're driving your own personal vehicle, POV, you have to actually take care of the maintenance yourself, which sucks. Me, myself, if I would ever go back to the post office, I would drive an LLV, just because I wouldn't have to worry about it if it breaks down, and it wouldn't be my problem or my expense. And as I told you, I've been down here before. I did the obstacle course that day. I mean, after I did the academy and all, I had to come back for the driver's test, and I was too confident in myself, and I failed it, which I can always come back in 6 months. It's not that big of a deal, but at least I tried again. But you know, it's hard. It's not an easy job. The post office can be very selfish. They want you when they need you. But anyways, I'm going to conclude this now. And if you're asking me, would I take the job back? Yes, if I had an LLV. Yes. But if I had to use my own personal vehicle, then no. Because I don't have the money for all that expense of transmissions, which cost about $3,000. And brakes and all this every 3 to 6 months. No. LLV is your right choice if you want to join the post office, but the post office determines whether you're on a route with a POV, that you have to use your own personal vehicle, or an LLV. Just remember that. But yes, the job is worth it, because after 10 years, if you stick on, you can have a great retirement, you can have a great life, you get Blue Cross Blue Shield insurance, and as I mentioned earlier, no RCAs get no benefits. They do have health insurance, I do believe, but it's not very great. But That's one thing I like about working where I work now, because the insurance don't cost that much money. It only costs me about $8 a paycheck just to cover myself. But anyways, that's my theories on the post office. And if you have any questions about the post office or have any hesitation joining it, just let me know in the comments below and I'll try to comment you back. Later, guys.